So in this tutorial, we're going to be looking at creating a basic enemy AI with a little bit of feature here. So the AI will consist of the enemy simply chasing you around whenever you get close to them. And also when you go far away, they're able to actually just retreat back to where they start. And the way we're going to set this up is that you can have multiple enemies and just put them anywhere in your scene you want to. And when they stop chasing the place, they will actually go back to wherever it is that they start. So that's going to be kind of cool. Let's get started with that right after the intro. So when adding these features to your game, I always recommend that you put yourself in a more simple and just a really simple scene. You create a little demo scene, a little sandbox, and create the features there before you add them into your game. Because a lot of times what would happen is that you have so much already going on in your games. You got folders and a bunch of game objects. Just get a little bit messy. So again, you don't have to, but it's just what I recommend for you is to just open another scene or even another project and just create that feature there before adding it into your game, which is what I did. So I'm going to turn now to my other Unity project, this one here, which is really simple. We're going to create that enemy AI. So I have an enemy AI here, really simple little cube, and then I have the little white here for the direction he's facing, so that when he turns away from me to go back to where he was, I want to make sure that he is indeed actually turning around. So I need to be able to tell which direction is his face. Now I've already created a little player here, and what this player is equipped with is just a little script to make him move. So I open the script up real quick. You can kind of take a look here. Remember, it's a video, so you can pause it, guys. You can pause it if I'm going to pause, if I'm going too fast, or slow it down, which is even a cooler feature here. The start function is not being used. I can actually remove that, and simply a little speed variable with some inputs, and boom. Now I have the player able to move. The enemy here has no script on it, which is what we're gonna do. When I get close enough here, I want him to be able to chase me, and then when I run away, I'm gonna have him go back to where he was. So let's get into that. Let's go ahead and create that new script for the enemy, and I'll go ahead and name it enemy AI. Enemy AI, and then we're gonna go ahead and click on the player. You can see it's just the enemy. I'm sorry, click on the enemy. See, it just has a little cube here facing in the forward direction, and you know, nothing really else on him here except now he has the enemy AI script. All right, so I've added the enemy AI script. Let's go ahead and crack it open like an egg. Boom. Now we're in the enemy AI script. It's time to make him do what we want him to do. First thing is we need a variable that's going to represent the player, the player's position and such. So I'm going to make a transform and call it player. Now mine is private. You could make yours public and just drag the player and, you know, connect it inside the inspector, link it that way. But you want to always try to make things private if you can. And another cool thing you can do is you can use serialized field. In case you haven't heard of that, I'll show you in a little bit. So a transform for the player, we need two floats, one for the enemy speed. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a float, and I'll call it enemy speed. Let's put a comma because the other variable is going to be a float as well. So you can just create two of the same type or three or more on the same line if they're the same type. So this is the same type. This would be distance. I'll just call it dis. And I'm going to use this to calculate distance between the enemy and the player, because when the player's close, we want to know that he's close to be able to turn around and chase him. Next is a vector 3. And this will be our start position. So I'll just call it start post. start position is how we're gonna know, hey, when the game starts, the player kind of like register his position as like, this is my home. So when I go chase stuff around, I'm gonna come back to this position because this is my home. All right. Now, like I was saying earlier about a private variable, if you wanted to be able to kind of like just drag it and connect it in the inspector, you can use the open and close brackets here and type serialized field, and then right below it, right, the variable that's the variable that's right below serialized field will be visible inside of Unity without it having to be public. So if you want to try that, and then once you hit save, I'll show you. Okay, back to here. Once you hit save, you see that variable is private. Okay, I didn't write private, but I didn't write public. So keep in mind it's private by default unless you tell it's public. But you can see it shows up here. So I'm able to kind of just drag and boom, connect it like that if I wanted to do that. But I really don't care to do that. What I'm gonna do is actually just make sure the player is just tagged player with a capital P, okay? And then what I'll simply do is inside of here, I won't do this, so it won't show up. Inside of the start, I'll simply just say player, and then I will just assign it using my script. So I'm gonna go to the game objects, and I wanna find the one with a certain tag, and the tag is player with a capital P, and that gives me the game object, but I wanna go all the way past the game object to the transform. Just keep in mind that the code that ends the line of code, the code that ends it is what all of it represents. So all of the game object.find, blah, 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 is up to here is just a game object. But now I've made it the transform, and player is a transform. Because player is a transform, I have to put a transform in a transform. It just makes sense. All right, enough explaining. You probably know most of that stuff. Let's head now to the position. We want to register the position when the game starts. So we say start post. That's the name we gave it. Start post. Start position. We say, hey, I want when the game starts. Let's just go ahead and set that start position to where we've started. So the current position of the enemy is now stored in start post. Once we have that, we have everything we need. You could create a variable for your maximum distance and use it in here, so that you can just kind of like change it in the inspector. You create maybe a public float and call it dist or max distance. But I'm just gonna go ahead and use some numbers. So let's first go ahead and set the distance. Let's update the distance continuously in the update to see if the player is ever close. So to do this, we say this equals vector3 dot distance, and then we need to give it point A and point B. So point A is our position, and then point B is the player position. So now we're constantly getting the distance between them here in this variable. Next, all we got to do is check to see if our distance is less than or equal to whatever we want that max distance to be. So you could use the variable here. I'm just gonna go ahead and toss in a number instead. Feel free to use a variable there that you can just kind of like make changes to in the inspector. You know what I mean? So if I'm within that 8 or less range or distance, at this point I want the enemy to chase me. So I'm just gonna write chase, and then I'll do a if, right? So if we are more than this 8f, this 8 range, I just basically say go back home. That should send us back home. What I like to do is create separate functions for this. So I'll create a function here, void chase, it's like so, and then I'll also create a void go home, like so. All right. So now I have these separate functions for these. All I got to do is write the separate the separate like commands in these functions. I don't have to come back up here and make too much changes. So for this, we simply say chase, call the function. Separate functions is really the way that I would always recommend doing these, because then you just like you have certain codes just at one certain location where if something's wrong, you just kind of look there and fix that there, right? So like this is fine. If there's something wrong with the chasing, I just look in here and I fix it there. So that's kind of like what I'm trying to say, but I'm not doing a great job. So next we would just want to, for the chase, we just kind of want to make the enemy look at the player. That's the first thing he has to do. So look at, and then the player variable, done. And then we just got to translate him, make him move towards that player location. So just basically move forward. So to do that, you just got to say transform dot translate, and then it's not the X, so we say 0. It's not the Y, so we say 0. Unless it is for you. Unless it is for you. So keep in mind here, it could be for you. And then we just add the enemy speed times time dot delta time, and that should give us a chasing ability. So I'll show you. Let's see what we have so far. I'm gonna hit play. Oops. Go ahead and hit play. And when I got close enough to him, you can see he looks at me. And he would chase me. If I go far away, see, he's not staring at me. Whenever I'm close enough, yeah. So he would chase me, except I didn't put a speed. So if I go to the script here, I'm using the enemy speed. But I see I didn't set a speed. So what I'm gonna do is do that serialized field. I could put speed in the start and just add a speed there, but I'll put the serialized field here because, like I said, it's the function, is a variable below it that gets affected by it. So because that's a private variable, I'll put it there, and then speed and distance shows up. So for speed, I'm gonna say maybe 4. Yeah, let's go ahead and put 4. And see if he actually chases us this time. And you can see there he is. He's chasing us now. Alright. Now we have him chasing us. I think 8 might have been too much. We're going to go really low here so we can actually get away. Let's go with 4 as well. Yep. Save it, and we'll head back to Unity. I'm gonna really slow him down here, like a 2, because I want to be able to run away. And so you see he's chasing me, and then when I go far away, he stops. Come here, chases me again. When if I go far away, he stops. Now, if that's what you want, you're all set with that. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more. It helps grow the channel. But if you also want him to be able to double back to where he started, then that's what we're gonna do next. So to make that happen, guys, pretty simple. First thing is that we want him to also look in the direction he's going. So just using the transform look at again will work for this, and you basically tell him to look back at that start post, so that start position where he started. Look over there, and then we simply want him to move to that spot, or move until he gets to that spot. And this is a function, right? The way the logic set up here, this is important to check. This is important to check. The way the logic is set up is like basically saying if you're more than the minimum distance you get to him. So this is gonna constantly be going. And in order for it to not go past its location, you cannot use transform not translate. So keep that in mind, because if this is still going even when he reaches there, translate is still adding to his position, so he's gonna keep moving forward. I don't want to bore you, so let's get right into it then. What you are going to need to do is transform dot position and just kind of set his position instead of trying to use translate. And then to make him actually go to that spot without teleported, you will have to use a lerp. So you go ahead and you say vector3 dot lerp. Here it is. And the way lerp works, you can see here, from position A to B over the course of a certain amount of time. So for the time, you can go ahead and use the variable again, but position A would be is transform dot position, so where he is right now. The position you want him to go to is where he started, so start position. And then over the course of whatever time, this part you can use a variable. The smaller the number, the slower he will travel. So I'm gonna put something ridiculously small, like 0.002. See that? That's really small. And then that. Feel free to, again, create a variable for this or a variable for what I'm using here. And just put them up here as floats. You can even add them, comment, add them here. But yeah, that's it. Hopefully that wasn't too fast. Let's go ahead and make sure everything is saved. Everything looks good. So again, just vector3.lerp. Your current position, wherever you are while you're chasing, that's where you are. From that position, we want him to go back home. How fast? This fast. And that's a really, really low number. So he takes his time to go back. Everything's saved. I'm gonna hit play. And again, the white thing here kind of like shows me his face, like the direction he's facing. So when I run away, I want to be able to see that white points towards his home, and he goes back when I run away. So I come here, and then he goes back, and then from the side, I'm off from the side, he goes back. So chase, and he goes back. So you can see, even with such a low number, he still moves kind of fast. So keep in mind, a really low number helps. And he goes back there. All right. Another thing you can do, if you don't want to put like a really, really low number, you can do a times delta time, and then you'll be able to put a slightly higher number, not that low. Okay, but that's it. That is it. That is the quick tutorial I want to show you today on just creating that nice little basic AI that works. It works really well and doesn't take much effort at all. If you like these videos, again, we're just trying to grow the channel, so subscribe. And also this game we're creating here with Sun Castle Gaming is a 3-week challenge. So in 3 weeks we're gonna have this finished and hopefully out there so you and your kids can play it. It's fun. It's about collecting, finding these little capsules that are hidden around the ocean while avoiding the bad guys. And they're hidden pretty well. You gotta just find them, collect as many as you possibly can. You can see he has a little light here on his ship, so it helps in the dark areas. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.